What's up, beautiful souls? It's Candace Cody Jones, also known as the Spiritual Bestie, and this is Real Talk with the Spiritual Bestie.
You are now tuned in to Real Talk with the Spiritual Bestie.
What's up, beautiful souls? Welcome back to another episode of Real Talk with the Spiritual Bestie. I'm Candace Cody Jones, a licensed marriage and family therapist associate in Texas, also known as the Spiritual Bestie, and I want to welcome you to this soft, sacred space where we sit at the intersection of tarot, astrology, and mental health. I like to discuss topics that impact the Black community as we explore, heal, and reclaim the fragments of ourselves that may have been lost or damaged through trauma. We're going to get into our tarot. We're going to do a little astro talk because there are some transits that I really want y'all to know about. And we're going to get into a little bit of real talk around the spiritual aspects and financial links between the music in our community, the energy that it permeates, and the manifestations that we see all around us as a result. So we're going to get into that, and I'll also have a couple of journal prompts for you at the end.
I'm gonna keep it real.
Let's get into our cards. The Star card is our first card today. This is the energy of the number 8 in numerology, so we'll get into that in a moment. But the energy of this card is really calling for us to pour into ourselves. The Star card in this reading represents our own individual healing processes. It represents awareness and self-realization. It is a nudge from spirit for us to give more and pour more into ourselves and our own emotional needs. There's a lot of water on this card. Water is really representative of our emotions. And take notice of the star up at the top. That can represent spiritual guidance. It can represent an ancestor or a guide. But this is a very spiritual experience that this person is having as they're pouring into this water. And the energy of the number 8 is really like a divine alchemy kind of energy. It is the energy of mastery. It represents the relationship between the spirit world and our material world. It's also bringing energy and lessons about power, learning how to hold our power, learning how to create abundance with the power that we have within us, and using that power in a responsible way with integrity, and using it, from that space to influence and impact the life that we live. When we turn the number 8 on the side, it becomes the infinity symbol. And that's a reminder for us that energy flows in and out. It's giving and receiving. So when you see the number 8, the vibe really is about power, manifestation, it's balance, it's abundance and transformation. And it is the bridge between spirit and the material things that we see in our waking life. The number 8 teaches us that abundance isn't just about material wealth. It's not just about success or the pins that we have on our jacket. It is about alignment. It's about knowing how to use our power responsibly and really coming to a space where we understand how to cultivate and shape the reality that we see. If you're seeing the number 8 and you're out of alignment, it's going to be highlighting this need for control. It can highlight your attachment to status or material wealth. It can highlight a misuse of power. It can highlight avoidism, by way of workaholic type behavior, from a fear of scarcity as well. And also, it represents, when we're out of alignment, it's really like that nudge to examine ourselves, especially around meaning that we make through like our achievements, meaning that we make through our accolades or our material success. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think all of us want to be successful. All of us want abundance, but we can really get ourselves out of alignment. When we see the number 8, if you're seeing it repeatedly, I want you to pay close attention to this message. You're being called to step into your power. You're being called to transform your relationship with abundance and materials and really begin to create from a place of purpose. You want to really step into your calling and create from there. And when you're creating from there, you're being called to ensure that as you align and recalibrate yourself, that you're creating from a place of purpose over fear. We're going to talk a little bit more about this fear thing because it definitely was a theme that came up kind of as I was pulling these cards. Our next card is the Fool card, and it's the Fool in reverse. And the Fool in reverse is a card that really represents a new opportunity that's opening up for you. And this opportunity and the approach to this, with this card coming in reverse, really signifies that we're moving forward without the same fears and reservations and the things that may have held us back in the past. So you're being led into this new space where the provisions, the guidance, everything that you need is going to be waiting for you along the way. And all you have to do in this process is go for it. All you have to do is trust the process and use your wisdom, the wisdom you've picked up from previous experiences along the way in your life, the wisdom that you've gotten from the lessons that you've learned, your failures and your successes. You're going to use that to inform you and to help guide you along the way. The energy of this card is the 0. And the 0 is like the divine void. It is representative of infinite potential. 0 is where it's kind of like a blank piece of paper. It's the thing before creation, right? And so a blank piece of paper can become artwork. It can be used to write a letter. It can be used to create and print a check and represent currency. It can represent anything, right? We have this blank piece of paper and there are infinite possibilities. And that's what this 0 represents. It's infinite potential. This is like the cosmic womb, and it's the place where all possibilities exist. And all of these possibilities exist in this void before they take form. There already is a formula there, and all the ingredients are already there. We just need to put them together. The 0 amplifies the energy of the numbers that it comes with. So remember that this Fool card is also amplifying that call and that nudge for us to pour more into ourselves. This is more of like highlighting it. It's bold lettering, okay? So when we have this 0 amplifying this energy, it's going to also amplify the next card as well. And it also appears as a reminder for us that we're all connected to something much greater and much bigger than ourselves. It's not just about this moment or this thing. It is about something much bigger, and the impact ripples, and it can ripple for you for generations. So the vibe of this, Fool card and the 0 overall is wholeness. It's the possibilities of the unseen, and it represents divine connection. The 0 is an infinite circle because it's the beginning and the end in one. It is the energy of source. It's surrender. It's returning ourselves back to divine alignment, standing in our calling. And it represents the mystery of the unseen forces and the unseen things that are at play behind the scenes. 0 also is representative of our intuition and this sacred space where transformation begins for us. If you're a little out of alignment, the shadow aspects of the 0 and this card can represent you feeling lost or uncertain, you feeling like you're on the edge and maybe about to fall off. And that can also amplify and represent fear showing up, avoidance. Spiritual bypassing also is a thing that I see sometimes when we're in this energy of fear. Also feeling disconnected from yourself, disconnected from others, or feeling insignificant. And it can also represent feeling stuck and overwhelmed with all of the possibilities, with all of the options, and not really being able to choose a path for yourself. When you feel or when you notice this 0 energy showing up, if you're seeing repeated 0s or you're seeing 0s all the time, you're being invited to surrender. Reconnect with your intuition, trust the process, get connected to yourself. Again, it's amplifying, pouring into yourself. You are the way back. And something may be ending for you right now. You may be in a space where things are clearing or you're preparing to be reborn, but trust the process and trust that what's next is better than anything that you've experienced before. You're on your way to it. Our next card is the Sun card, and the Sun card is a beautiful card. I love this card because it is another amplifier. And so we have two amplifying cards in this reading. The message that we started with was pour back into yourself. This is a message about you and you pouring and really centering yourself in your own experience. And this card is showing us what happens when we pour into ourselves, when we move past the fear. This is the joy. This is the success. This is us standing in the warmth of the sun. And it's also a reminder of the fact that what happens in the dark is going to be revealed by the light, because nothing can remain hidden. So it's up to you that when the light is shined on a situation, when a situation is illuminated by the sun, trust what you see in front of you. This card is also a victorious energy. This is about winning and success and being successful and being seen for who you are. Your hard work is paying off. This is a celebratory card. All you have to do is stay the course. The energy of this card is the number 1. The number 1 is the divine initiator. This is the spark. So we had the womb right before this, right? The cosmic womb, the void. We had this blank piece of paper. And the number 1 is the spark. It is the first drop of ink on that paper, or the first fold if you're making something or creating something with this cosmic womb or blank canvas. This is the energy of creation. It is individuality. It is the self. It's independence. It's stepping into who we are. And this is where our ideas are born, where our paths are chosen. This is the beginning of the journey to success. And so the vibe of this card and of this, the numerology, the number 1, and the sun card is beginnings. It is identity. It is self, and also, because it's a 1, it's a direct connection to source energy. It's the point of origin. This sun card is really the card that is the I am affirmation. This is I am, and whatever comes after that, so you are. And it represents being in alignment with yourself, but also being in alignment with divine will and with your purpose and your calling. If you are a little out of alignment, you're going to notice that your ego is speaking more for you in these situations. It can lead you to isolation, forcing control, really sitting in that space of fear, and being afraid of being seen and being vulnerable. So if you see this, you are being invited to really just step into who you are. Trust yourself. Trust that you are enough. You're being called into something new, and you can't move into your purpose without fully being connected to who you are, without trusting yourself and without believing in yourself. And this is the card that is giving you permission to move forward. You don't need someone's validation. You don't need to wait on someone to tell you it's okay for you to move forward. You just need to trust what you feel on the inside and go for it. Our oracle card, we had 2. Our first oracle card is the inner peace card. This card is representative of what happens as we go through this process. A big part of it, of like connecting with that energy of inner peace, is really about us accepting things as they are. We call this in therapy radical acceptance. When you get into a space where you've grieved whatever it is that didn't work out the way you wanted it to, or whatever might have been lost along the way, and you come to a space of self-acceptance, of accepting what the sun has illuminated and shown you, as it does on this sun card, you get to this space of inner peace because there's a stillness, there's a knowing. And we have also this very like Piscean energy on this card as well. And so it's a very spiritual thing that has to happen in order for us to get to a space of inner peace. And again, you might have to go through that grieving process, but you can't get to acceptance until you've grieved the thing that you feel that you've lost, or the thing that, may have been taken from you. So you get to that inner peace point by accepting and by coming into a space of really connecting with yourself. And also, we can even look at this as connecting with the 2 parts of ourselves, that ego part of ourselves that is maybe a little unhealed, and then the healed higher version of ourselves. And when those two come together in alignment and balance, inner peace is what happens. Our second card is the fulfillment card. And this card is representative of the fruit. Also, I don't want y'all to miss the full moon on here, okay? So we have this full moon on here. And again, we've talked about pouring into ourselves, right? That's nurturing energy. That is what happens when you prune your plants. You get a beautiful piece of fruit. You get harvest after that. So when you've gone through this journey of trusting the process, of stepping into the newness, allowing, the sun to illuminate things and believing in yourself and being connected to divine will, you reach that point of inner peace. And then the fulfillment comes because you're not in resistance and you're not trying to force things to happen. You're allowing spirit to guide you and lead you through the journey. And you're also cultivating, pruning, putting in the work. And the harvest happens after that. So those are our tarot and oracle cards. Let's get into the herb for this episode.
I'm gonna keep it real.
I want to share an herb with you all that I keep in my stash at all times. It is a staple in my personal apothecary. And just as a quick reminder and disclaimer, I'm a licensed therapist. I'm not a doctor. I have studied herbs independently. I don't have any herbal certifications or anything like that. So everything that I share, and that's for this entire episode, is for educational purposes only. It's not medical advice. This is not therapy. Please consult your healthcare provider before using any herbs, or, also be mindful of your allergies and interactions that herbs can have with each other and other medications. And trust me, herbs can interact with each other. They can cause really interesting side effects. Trust me, I know. I have been dabbling and studying herbs for years now, and I have definitely had my share of experiences. I remember when I lived in Atlanta, I would go to Sevenanda, and they have this wall of just all kinds of herbs. I mean, they have so many herbs. I would experiment and mix them on my own, and that's how I found out the hard way. I had no idea that herbs could interact like that, but they did. Do your own research. The herb that I'm talking about today is mugwort. I love mugwort. I always keep it in my personal, stash of herbs because it is a great herb for intuition and for inner vision. It's a great protective herb as well. And it's great to use for meditation, for dream work, to really strengthen your intuition, and being able to see past illusions. And on the medicinal side, it can also stimulate appetite as well. And it's good for menstrual support because it eases cramps and discomfort. I'm not a cramper, but I do use mugwort in my womb steams. And it's one of the herbs that, like I said, I always keep it around because it's such a great herb. It's so powerful. On the taste side, it is a little more pungent. So it's not necessarily an herb that if you're not used to bitters, you may not really like it. And I don't love the taste, but I definitely like the uses of the herb. It can also be used kind of as like a mild sleeping aid. You can incorporate it in your like bedtime rituals, and it can help with dream support. Mugwort is good for psychic awareness. It is really good for that third eye work. And like I said, protective work, shadow work, dream work. That is what this herb is good for. And womb work. It is definitely a great herb for womb work. It should not be taken if you are pregnant because it stimulates the uterus. So also, if you have like any kind of allergies or sensitivities to like ragweed and things like that, you're probably not going to really want to mess with this herb because you can definitely have a reaction to it. So that's our herb for today. Let's get into our astro talk.
I'm gonna keep it real.
We are going to talk about a few transits that are coming up, and I want to highlight a couple of things specifically July 29th. It's one of the days this month that I'm going to highlight in this Astro Talk. We're at the start of Leo season and also eclipse season. We can expect a lot of movement, especially because of Jupiter and its amplified transits. Our cards were really amplified. We had 2 amplifying cards. Jupiter is going to be amplifying some things. This is a really prime time. So we can expect a lot of movement, a lot of unexpected changes. Not a bad thing. Just be prepared. And we'll talk a little bit more about, what to expect. Let's start with Mercury. Mercury is gone direct, right? And it's going to be bringing some solutions and resolutions to some of the things that popped up on us during the retrograde. This is a good time to reflect on what you've learned over the retrograde and how your emotions may have played on your logic. We were tested during the retrograde on whether or not we were able to intentionally communicate without our defenses and our emotions taking over. So this is a good time to just reflect on that, be aware of what's coming up, be self-aware. And we also have Saturn going retrograde on the 26th. Saturn going retrograde is going to bring us back to some of the foundational structures and the boundaries that we created at the beginning of the calendar year. And this energy can really be useful for moving through that fear. As we go on this journey that we talked about in the reading, this is going to be the energy that helps to support you in transmuting the fear of failure. This is also a time where we can engage in a reflective pause to really evaluate what we've done in the past, what we're currently doing, and really determine what's working and what isn't. To sum this energy up, this is the shit or get off the pot energy. This is the time that if you want it, you got to go for it because we have a lot of activity on the 29th. On the 29th, we have Jupiter opposing Pluto. We also have the sun in Jupiter, and we have a full moon. Remember I told y'all when I pulled the Oracle card, don't forget that full moon was there. It's tying that energy right into this transit. It's a lot of energy on the 29th, and this is the day to really get in your bag. This is the time to go for it. It's the time to bet on yourself because it's considered one of the luckiest days of the year. And although it may take some time for you to see things come into full bloom, the seeds that you plant, the nurturing that you do to these things at this time are the things that you've already started. It counts. So get into your manifestation bag and get busy. We also have Jupiter and Pluto in opposition. And this might trigger some internal conflict between you and your desire for growth and expansion because Jupiter is big. It loves to expand. It wants to be seen. And all this happening in Leo season is just right on par. Jupiter is the planet that does not like to stay confined. It is always trying to explore and reach further and reach higher and reach deeper. And so you're going to see a conflict because Pluto is the planet that is going to highlight some things for you on the deeper internal emotional spaces. Pluto likes to control things. Pluto likes things in a certain order. It likes things to be compartmentalized and power to be minimized in certain areas. So this can call in the need for some deep internal trauma work, especially if you are a person that has abandonment issues. If you experience a lot of trauma, you may notice that you have this really strong desire to start addressing these things. Maybe before when you went to therapy, or if you've never been in therapy, maybe before as you've been exploring some of the things that have been coming up for you, when you kind of get to those tender places, you tend to pull back or you retreat. This energy is going to actually activate the desire to go deeper. You're going to desire to go there and to really get to the root of things. This energy is one that's going to really support you in going deeper and really digging into some of the things that are showing up for you. In the last few weeks of the month, because Jupiter has been getting so active, it's going to be calling for us to dig a little deeper. We have to look beyond the surface of things. But when we do, we're going to see the beauty of things that have been right in front of us this entire time. Jupiter, again, it's a planet that wants to push boundaries. It wants to expand. It wants growth. It's not afraid to take risks. but Pluto wants to keep things minimized. Pluto's tiny, Jupiter's huge, like we having a little tussle. Pluto wants to limit power, it wants to enforce boundaries. It's like, stay out of my space, like give me space. And it wants to overhaul systems internally. Pluto's always looking at the worst case scenario and can be a little bit morbid as well. So if you notice those things pop up, just understand that that's the energy that Pluto brings. You might feel some internal urgency to expand yourself and go for it during this time period, but you're also probably going to see some of those obstacles pop up on you and maybe a little inner tussle. Don't let that stop you. This is the time for you to bet on yourself. It's the time for you to really push back against those self-limiting beliefs and really not dilute your internal power. This is a time to really connect. Again, we had that Sun card come up. It's Leo season. Jupiter's expanding. Jupiter's wanting to be seen. Like, all of this energy is connected. And this is a time for you to really dig deeper and really push past those insecurities, push past the limitations, and really trust yourself. This transit is really about letting go of fear. It's letting go of the things that have been trying to keep us confined and keep us small. And it's really that tussle between, showing up and showing out, or remaining small. And this is going to challenge those of you that are trying to contort yourself to fit a mold that doesn't align with you. This is going to really challenge that code switching in you and really call for you to step into who you are more authentically. If you're worried about being palatable, about being liked, or needing all this validation consistently, this is going to be a challenge for you, but it's time to break out of that, because what you do in this moment, again, as we said during the reading, is far greater and it's far bigger than just this moment. And what you're going to see is that if you step out of that space of fear, if you really go there, if you dig a little bit deeper, this is going to be a liberating experience. And it's going to be way more beneficial and bring way more satisfaction than vying for somebody's acceptance by watering yourself down or shrinking yourself to fit spaces that aren't even right for you. Collectively, this can look like a continuation of mounting friction that we've been seeing. I talked about it in one of either the last or the episode before that. We may also see during this transitional period that there are some negative impacts, or maybe negative energy directed towards the Black community as a whole. We saw in 2020, when Mars was conjunct with Saturn, the Black Lives Matter protests really took an uptick. There was an escalation in the protests during that time period. And we also may see some collective health issues. 2020 COVID was happening. So there may also be a rev up around war, a lot of mass confusion, maybe some panic at this time. So just know that this transit can bring some things, right? And there's duality to it all, at the end of the day. This friction that was showing up in the reading for our community and in the astro transitions at that time, we're going to be seeing kind of this continuation of this friction and this tussle between the so-called powers that be and our own cultural, philosophical, moral, and political agendas. So keep that in mind. Be prepared for that. Be grounded in yourself. Don't let people trick you out of your spot. This is a time where it's really about you reclaiming your power and your autonomy. Also, this time period may really test some relationships in your life, because what you're called to do may not be the thing that aligns with what they think you should be doing. It may not be the acceptable thing. It may be misunderstood a lot by people that you love and care about, people that you value. But this is really about us stepping into the alignment in this energy of Saturn. And I've talked about Saturn before. Saturn is like a slow climb up the mountain, right? Pushing a boulder. It can be difficult. It can be hard. But Saturn is that planet that wants things done right. It is a planet that requires things to be done the correct way. Saturn is a planet of justice, and it's a planet of balance in all things. It's also really hard. It's a very authoritative type of energy. And so when we align with this Saturn energy and we take this ascension up the mountain, it's hard work, but it leads to real long-lasting progress. And this brings deep internal satisfaction because you have to be true to yourself. You got to be authentic and you got to want it. And Saturn and the energy that it's bringing is going to pull that out of you. Over the next year and a half, we're going to be seeing a transformation and this collective demand for more authenticity, for more individuality. And a lot of us will feel the pull to, come out, but we're going to be fighting against that comfort of staying where we are and staying with what's familiar. This is one of those moments where these comfort zones can really keep you stuck. It can really be the difference between you ascending and expanding in a real way, in a long-term way, or you staying small and staying confined with where you are. So what this made me think about too, as I was kind of like looking over these transits, has been my own experience and my own transformation. And when I think about this Saturn energy and the hard work that has to go into things, it really reminded me of when I went to Belize last year. And Belize is a place of my people. That's, my maternal side. We have deep roots in Belize. And when I went to Belize, I went up, on this hike up this mountain that was, by the resort that we were staying at. And when I was taking this hike, when I tell you, baby, I was in the worst shape of my life. I was so out of shape. It was sad. It was sad. That really motivated me to get my life. But at that time, I knew when I got on this trip, I spent a lot of time just in quietness because I was receiving a lot of messages. I was receiving a lot of downloads, and I was just really quiet and really kind of into myself. Any energy that didn't align, I wasn't really trying to engage with it because I just wanted to go there and have this experience. And before I left, I prayed, I asked for guidance, I asked for protection, I asked for clarity, and I asked my people to speak to me and show me, what it is that I needed to know and to gain and learn from that experience. And they did not disappoint. When I got there, I could not sleep. There was I would go to bed and lay down, but every single night I was awakened out of my sleep. And the first night that I was waking out of my sleep, I had there was a huge hard poke in my back. Somebody took their finger and just poked me right in my back, and it woke me up out of my sleep. And every night after that, something woke me up. There was a presence that would wake me up. And it wasn't like a frightening presence, but I could feel this presence with me. And when I came back and I was kind of reflecting on things that had subsequently happened, I realized that my ancestors were telling me to stay woke. And so I'm getting ready to go up this mountain. I'm in the worst shape of my life. I get up there after it taken way too long, but I was determined, and I was fighting against all the fears. I was stepping out of my comfort zone, and I was stepping out of my comfort zone and out of my fears because, there was big cats in the jungle and who knows what else. And I heard some scrapping when I was coming down the mountain, but I was going at it against the fear, against the things that normally would have held me back. And even as out of shape and out of breath as I was not stopping. I continued to work my way till I got to the top of the mountain. And when I got to the top of the mountain, did I enjoy the beautiful view? Did I enjoy this beautiful area view? No. I was trying to catch my breath. I was taking a little video. But once I finally caught my breath and I was able to breathe again, I was like, okay, I did it. I conquered this thing within me. It was just such a beautiful thing for me and my experience. And it really helped me to grow. It really expanded a part of me. I could feel that expansion happening on this trip. And when I came back, I was feeling conflicted about staying, connected to things that no longer served me, things that had long expired, things that weren't authentic and weren't in alignment with what I was being called to do and where I am in my life. And I had the decision to either stay stuck or release it with love and move forward. And I decided to step out of my comfort zone again. And I said all that because this energy is very much like that. Like, it's going to require hard work. It's going to require us stepping out of the comfort zone that we're living in and we've been existing in, the things that are familiar. Those familiar things can keep us so stuck, because I know, even if this is not a healthy dynamic, even if I know you faking it and I'm trying to keep it real, I know what I can expect. Unpredictability is one of the things that scares us, because I don't know what I can expect on this new journey. I don't know what I can expect, moving into this new calling in this new space. I don't know if people are going to accept or reject what I put out there. It's not for you to decide all that. We have to stand in purpose, and we have to do so with intention. So when I decided to step out of my comfort zone, I realized how stuck these things were keeping me. I realized also that these things have been bringing an energy into my space that was blocking things for me, because when I released it and when I let it go, the doors just started opening. Things just started falling into place. And it's important for us to know when time has expired on a thing and to be able to let it go. It doesn't have to be a dramatic ending. We don't have to crash out to go out. We can release something and let it go and move on. And that also is a way of us calling our power back. That's the beginning of us calling our power, reclaiming our energy, reclaiming our time. So keep in mind that this transit is going to test you, and you might have a hard time getting up that mountain, baby, but don't quit. Trust on yourself, bet on you. And even if you out of breath, like I was, when you get up there, you can ground yourself. You go and catch your breath. And when you look back, because when I look back at the video of that aerial view of that space where I was standing on the land of my ancestors, of my people, that was more fulfilling and brought more satisfaction than the pain that I experienced making it up that mountain. And then it also motivated me to get my ass back to work on moving my body, getting back into my yoga, stepping into, getting into weightlifting, and really starting to shape my body in the way that I wanted to see it. So, and I'm not done, but we're there, we're on the journey, and it's hard work. I be in that gym huffing and puffing, but I'm doing it, and I can sit back and be proud of myself. I'm not worried about somebody else's opinion of me, because either you're doing it or you're not. And if you can do it better, then do it better for you. So the collective energy that we're going to be noticing is going to be more about community and connection. And so the thing that you might be called to step out of the comfort zone with, maybe some of the people that you realize you've outgrown because you've actually been shrinking yourself to fit these spaces, you've been contorting yourself, or you've been masking or code switching to fit these spaces. You're going to start to find more connection and more community with more authentic people, because this energy is calling for more authenticity. It's calling for more individuality. And a lot of us, when we step out of that comfort zone and we release that thing, we're going to find the things that really speak to us, that really meet our needs, that really connect and align with our purpose. So the collective energy is going to be about that. It's going to be about that community vibe, connection, and it's also going to be about bringing the power back into the hands of the people. This is going to be about returning things that have been borrowed, returning things that have been appropriated and have been, controlled and have been used to make currency to pass on to other generations. This energy is going to be the start of bringing and returning the power back into the hands of those that have created these things and that have created these systems. So That is our astro reading. I hope that y'all tune back in as we explore, some upcoming transits as they start to unfold and happen. And stick with me. And if you go back and listen, you'll be able to see the different transits and actually what's happening in the news and what's happening in our world. So definitely stay tuned.
I'm gonna keep it real.
If you've been with me on this journey for a while, you know I'm a believer in manifestation. I have literally manifested my life, my current life. I'm married to the man that I manifested. I still have the notebook where I started that process. I live in the kind of house that I manifested. Even when I first moved to Dallas and we were renting this condo, I've been visualizing and going into meditation, visualizing this huge body of water where I was just sitting and writing and I was creating. And when my boyfriend at the time, he's my husband now, but when we were dating and I was getting ready to move to Dallas, he went and he was, looking for a place for us to live. And so he comes to this one place, and I've talked about this in some of the earlier episodes of manifestation, so you can go back and hear kind of more of the story. But when he got to the place that was in my manifestation and he panned around on FaceTime, I knew immediately, like, it looked exactly how I had been seeing it. And we moved into that place and I wrote books in that place, and I began my journey of self-publishing in that place and in that space. Even the house that we live in now, is a manifestation. And me being an entrepreneur, being a therapist, that has been a manifestation. Some manifestations take more time. Sometimes you're going through different seasons and different cycles in life, but that does not mean that that thing isn't going to bloom in its divine timing. It's all about timing, and it's all about preparation. So moving through all of these spaces, like, I've manifested owning my own business. I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and it's not an easy process. It's been a lot of me shedding this programming about how my life is supposed to look, like how my work life is supposed to look. And as I'm shedding that, I'm finding more freedom. I believe in manifestation. This has been something I've been doing long before I made it to this space. I was at one point on food stamps, cycling through toxic relationships, battling depression. I was in a space where I had very little self-love or self-awareness. I had no knowledge of self. I had no knowledge of my power, about how dope and amazing and beautiful I was. All I knew was what I wanted to feel and what I wanted to experience. So during that time, especially because I'm a 90s baby, like, R&B was all I listened to. All I listened to was love songs when I was manifesting my husband. I had all these playlists because I knew that I wanted to be with a partner that felt like a 90s R&B love song. During that time period, like, I was deeply ingrained in that vibration of love. I know and live within the power of manifestation. Nobody can tell me otherwise. Nobody can convince me of otherwise. When I was in church and I wasn't fully aware of, like, how to manifest, and how powerful my words were, I'd be praying and declaring and decreeing things over my life, but also singing songs like, I'm a wretch undone living in a world of sin, or I'm unworthy, Lord. And it was vibrating that energy in my life. We manifest all the time, and I hear a lot of conversations in the Christian community about it being evil and not of God. And to that, I just encourage you to think about the declarations and think about scriptures that you pray. When you're praying and decreeing and declaring things over your life, you're manifesting. And like, we do that, we do vision boards and affirmations, all to align ourselves in our frequency with the things that we desire. That's why we listen to certain types of music when we're going into the gym, or when we're making love, or when we're cleaning the house. And we need to have more dialogue and really take deeper evaluations about what we're feeding our spirits and the long-term impacts that it can have on us. These things impact not only us, but they also impact our community. And so when I heard all of the discourse around Young Miami's song, I knew I wanted to talk about it here. And not from a place of judgment or trying to be judge and jury or self-righteous, because we all know that we're out here trying to survive. And I feel like when you haven't experienced poverty, a lot of times you don't understand what it's like to split that last cheeseburger or to not know where your electric bill is going to come from. And Georgia Power don't play, okay? So you got to have that money for them. You may not know what it's like to literally spend your last dollar and not know where the next one's coming from, or knowing that you don't have anything in between that next paycheck. So when I see people making decisions, or when we see people compromising themselves, there's something deeper there. And we all know the reality of trying to survive in this economy, in this world. So I can't judge an artist for, releasing music or doing what's best for them. My professor in undergrad said, never underestimate the power of a situation. And it wasn't until I was faced with certain situations that I realized just how the brain will start to conjure up things for you to do to be able to make them ends meet. That's from a space of desperation. When I was in those spaces, I was thinking, listen, at this point, I'm about to do a legal way, but something got to give. And thankfully, I never had to go there. But I know what it's like to battle that internally and really be sitting at this crossroads thinking of how I'm going to feed my child. And I'm definitely going to do it by any means necessary. So what I want to talk about and take a look at is the spiritual link and the financial and energetic link to our music, and then the things that we actually can look around and see manifesting in our cultural reality. There were a lot of conversations recently. I'm kind of late to the talk, but that's my ADHD. I was listening though and sitting back and looking at a lot of conversations that were being had around her song. One of the things that I saw a lot of, and I see a lot of when people talk about whether a certain type of music or a certain song is appropriate or inappropriate, people will often say, well, don't let your kids listen to it. And I think, to an extent, yes, parents are responsible for what their children consume to a degree. I think we've all done things that our parents didn't know about. We all snuck and did things we weren't supposed to be doing. And when I was growing up in the 90s in this sanctified, filled with the Holy Ghost house, okay, my parents wasn't allowing me to listen to no 90s R&B. It was gospel only, okay? It had to be only gospel. It could not be anything else. But little did they know I was getting my hands on everything. My parents didn't have any idea. And they were the kind of parents that was coming and checking your room. They was looking through your stuff. I had to be real stealth about it. Parents can only have so much awareness of what their kids are doing. They're only going to have so much reach as their kids get older. We also have to, at the same time, as a community, get back into that community vibe, into that village vibe. It really sustained us. It helped us survive. And we really have to get back to that, back to being accountable to each other and to our community. That's just who we are. We are a community of people. We have to get back to that community vibe, that village vibe that's ingrained in our souls. We've always carried this and it's helped us survive. And when we think about music, we have to be mindful because they're not as aware as we are of the ramifications of certain things. And again, I'm not passing judgment on an artist. I think artists should be able to create the music that they want to. I feel like sometimes the reality of what they create and the stories that they tell based on their own experiences is uncomfortable for us to sit with. It's ugly sometimes. It's up to us to decide whether or not we consume it. I listen to some of everything. I have a whole righteous and ratchet playlist, and it has a little bit of both on there because I like balance and I like variety. Again, not from a place of judgment. I think that this is a great conversation for us as a community to have. And this conversation today is about awareness. And I hope you're able to widen your lens and really take an intentional approach about what you're inviting into your experience and also what you're promoting in your own household to your kids and the conversations conversations maybe that you need to have with them about what they invite into their experience, and not just a no, but really explain to kids. We as parents are supposed to be teaching them so that when they leave our houses, they are prepared for life. So I'm also not saying that just because you listen to a song that you're going to go out and do the things that the song says, or you're going to act out, or you're automatically low vibrational. But I want us to take a look at how frequencies actually impact us. And the way I like to think about energy and frequencies and our exposure to certain things is kind of how I do like a food allergy or anything else that might be toxic. Because if you're highly allergic to, say, peanuts, the first time you're exposed to peanuts, it could be fatal. On the other hand, for some people, maybe you got a mild peanut allergy, right? And you may experience just some inflammation. Maybe, it can range from mild to largely unnoticed even. If you maybe are a person that's not aware that you have this allergy and you're ingesting it, you might experience, some stomach discomfort, maybe a little rash that you're not really aware came from that. You may notice some symptoms of your allergies. If you're, unaware that something is toxic to you, you're not seeing any visible signs or symptoms. Over time, though, the constant exposure is going to have an impact in the long term. There are some things called forever toxins, and these can stay in your system for decades. They can even stay in your system for the rest of your life. Also, with forever toxins, they can be passed down to your children, even if you're not pregnant at the time that you're exposed to them. So it's the same with our mental and spiritual wellness. It's that saying from the Kabbalion, as above, so below. It's not an overnight process, but that doesn't negate the impact. So when we talk about music and we talk about frequencies, they have an impact. It carries an energy, an energetic frequency and signature. And that frequency and that energy can be used to influence. It can be used to shift, to change things. And that's all the way down to a molecular level. There's a lot of science that supports and shows how frequencies impact and affect us. We create playlists and we listen to certain type of music at certain times of the day. Or, if you're going to the club, you're probably not listening to R&B. You're probably listening to something to hype you up. Or if you're going to the gym, you're not listening to Luther Vandross, A House Is Not a Home. You're going to be putting on something that motivates you, something that pumps you up. And there's science behind that. The music that we listen to and even the frequencies and vibrations that we're exposed to, they speak to our subconscious minds. They speak to ourselves. And for us in our community, our artists have always been the voice to the voiceless. And what we entertain and co-sign becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy loop. There was a study that was done at Kobe University, and I'll try to link the study in the show notes if you want to look a little deeper into it. But there was a study that was done, and they were saying that there were these nanofibers that they were studying, and they took music and played music to these nanofibers, and the vibrations actually generated sound waves. They started to align, they started to move together, and they danced. When they turned the music off, the nanofibers stopped moving. And that shows how deeply a vibration and a frequency can actually impact us. And because music helps our brains release, chemicals like oxytocin and dopamine for mood regulation and even pain management, over time, the chemical shift in our bodies from frequencies can influence how our brain processes information, how it changes, and it can impact how we feel. And so sound being literal frequency and music being what it is, it all programs our subconscious minds. So it can heal us or it can entrap us. When we look at our music, when a song glorifies destructive behavior, when it talks about things that compromise our soul and our physical freedom, this is a survival frequency. The resulting vibration is that frequency. This frequency, the survival frequency, will lock our nervous system into a fear-based primal mode. That now introduces a new risk to us. We have historical trauma. Some of us may be fighting poverty. Poverty is traumatic. it causes trauma. It is traumatic to not know where your ends are going to come from, to stay up wondering how you're going to pay these bills, to stress yourself out, to overwork yourself out trying to make ends meet. Poverty is traumatic. So when you introduce these type of factors into our community with the historical trauma we carry, with the current trauma we may have carried, with the generational trauma that we've carried from our parents or great grandparents, we need to, I feel like that's cause for concern. And I feel like we need to talk about it. We carry 5 to 7 generations of trauma in our DNA. And when we talk about frequencies that can entrap us, I feel like this conversation becomes even more important. It's a deeper conversation that we need to explore. It's deeper than rap. When we're exposed to certain frequencies and certain elements, whether it be something toxic or something healing, we gotta evaluate, how is this impacting me? Is this taking me further down the hole, or is this bringing me up and elevating me? And when we're carrying unhealed trauma, we become even more compromised. When we are exposed to certain things, that normalizes us being in survival mode. And at that point, it's not just entertainment. It becomes so much bigger than that. So having this conversation, I think, is important for us to really think about, what's the real impact? What is the real risk? As Black people, our nervous system's already, like, our baseline is already higher than everybody else is. Everybody else is here. We're here. That is due to transgenerational trauma. It's due to the things that our people have suffered for generations. So where our baseline is already elevated, that is what makes us more susceptible to cancer and diabetes and high blood pressure and things like that. So we have to talk about the impact. And I feel like music that's beautifully dressed in toxicity and deleteriousness, and also targeting us specifically, is really intentional. And we see it pop up so heavily in our community. We don't see this kind of music pop up in other people's communities. They don't allow it. But what we agree to, what we allow, what we elevate, what we promote, what we pass along gives it power. And when we think about our music and we think about a lot of the music that's promoted in our community, targeting our community, on the other side of that are these policies that also target our community in particular. We got to go back to the school to prison pipeline on that, because again, targeting the youth, focused on the youth. And when we look at the two side by side, it's impossible not to see how they feed each other. It's impossible not to see the correlation between the two. When these seeds are planted in a society where policies are against us, where permissive violence is against us, and policing is designed for us with a zero tolerance policy for defending ourselves, or even being a suspect of doing wrong, you gotta see the ploy at play. You gotta see how this all intersects and it's all connected. It is a cog on the wheel. Our music, a cog on the wheel. The policies, a cog on the wheel. It makes me think about, as I'm talking about this, like how we saw this thing play out in Carmelo Anthony's case recently. A total miscarriage of justice. Unfair sentencing. We all see it. We know it. It's right in front of us, right? But there was zero tolerance for him. Cyrus Carmack Belton's murder. There was zero tolerance. And these kids really were just minding their own business, living their lives. But what happened to them was systemic. And the music that's currently shoved down our throat and targeting our community, again, it's a cog on the wheel. If we look back at any era of our music, you can look at the vibrational reflection. You can look at the residual impact that it had on our community. I'm a 90s baby. I love 90s R&B. That's where you can find me. But the height of our music, and probably my second favorite era, is the 70s. The energy, the messages within our music at that time had real influence. I feel like our music always has influence, and that's why we need to have these conversations. So not just then, but we saw it then, you could see it then. And even during that time period, culturally, we had more family unity, more community unity. Big Mama and Granddaddy, they were, in their positions. Big Mama ran things, but there was this community and really tight, close-knit family vibe. We're not going to talk about, right now, this ain't the episode where I'm going to talk about like transgenerational trauma and some of the things that had to go, right? Some of the systems within our community that had to be dismantled and ideology, but that came from slavery. century. But overall, there was this different presence and vibe of power within our community. And we were at that time at the height of the Black Power movement. This was when the Black Panther Party and Black culture had really solidified a stronghold in pop culture. That's when we could not be ignored. And it was so much so that, you can go back a little further, back into the 60s, but the FBI at that time was like at the height of their monitoring our community. They weren't only monitoring us, but they started to really pay attention to Black behavior and collective consciousness. And I feel like they've always studied us. They've just never shared that insight with us to benefit us. But again, you got the FBI, this COINTELPRO program, another cog in the wheel. And because of the impact of our music, aka our vibration, and their awareness of our cultural pride and the power that resulted from us being collectively unified in our community, our musicians, the community voices, they were all investigated, they were stalked. And the fact that the FBI had an entire investigation department that was mainly focused on Black thought, Black power in COINTELPRO, that tells me that it was not just music. If we follow history, you can see the ploy at play. And so our music has always been a tool for us. It's been a tool of survival, resistance, our grief, our praise, our love, our gratitude. And Daphne Brooks, a writer and scholar, and she said that our music is inextricably linked to the matter of Black life. She wrote this book called Linear Notes for the Revolution. I will try to leave that also in the show notes. Like she said, it is linked to who we are and the matters of our life. And we can see this because in the middle of the 20th century, this was the time where our culture was solidified as the blueprint for pop culture. This was the height of the Black Power movement. And as a community, we started to really have this undeniable pool of power in music and politics. And that's also when Black artists started to have more autonomy in their respective mediums. So the music that was flowing through our community and produced at that time, and even now, it serves as a record of our history and a manifestation of who we are. And Stokely Carmichael once said that our music would be our weapon and our solace, and it still is. But what we're seeing now being pushed currently through the mainstream is the product of reverse engineering on us. We have the formula. They reverse engineered it. And now they're feeding it back to us, but it's poison, it's toxic. And I think that we all like variety, right? But I find it really interesting how our music used to be about us and now it's anti-us. Our music used to uplift us and now it's an invitation to our own demise. And I feel like we used to get these invitations to love ourselves, to love one another, to be loved, live love, make love. And now we're invited to this party where we're the feast. And, I like being a snack, okay? But we're being consumed in a different way. It's really nefarious. And I sat back and I can't help but put my little tin hat on as I go through my exploration of history and Black culture. And, have y'all ever sat back and asked yourself, why do these people give these multi-million-dollar marketing budgets to certain artists while certain music that heals, that uplifts our community, that calls for accountability or economic independence gets suppressed and gatekept? Y'all ever wonder why that is? Because chaos is profitable and this type of content sets these corporations up is why they fund it. Because you have companies like BlackRock Inc., the Vanguard Group, State Street Corporation, Goldman and Sachs, Morgan and Stanley. They benefit twice financially off of our music and the vibration and the frequency. Again, we're going back to the science. We're getting a little deeper than the surface. They own stakes in large record labels and private prison investments.
You don't find that suspicious? You don't find that suspicious? You don't find that suspicious?
I see the community responding and I'm like, what are we doing? Where is our center? Because to see the community dogpile on India Ari when she said what she said, whether you agree or disagree, the dogpile that I saw happen after that was so heartbreaking. It was so heartbreaking. She's one of our own. We're the same people that in 2025, 2024, our anthem was protect Black women. And what happened to that? What happened to that? So I know we're not a monolith. We don't all share the same sentiments or agree on the same thing, but I think there's a way that we can do that and still extend grace, have respect for one another, and hold amplified voices accountable. When tragedy strikes, we're expecting our celebrities that we've invested in, that we've promoted, that we have supported to say something. So the expectation is there, but when they do speak out, if it doesn't resonate with us, then we got to tear them down. We can't respectfully agree to disagree. Yes, we need to hold people accountable. We need to have more dialogue and discourse, and it doesn't have to be done in, a way where we're tearing each other down. We can have our opinions, and I feel like the same way all of us say and post and share what we want, everyone's entitled to that. So when you take part in whatever it is that you're going to do, you do it with autonomy and full awareness of where it can take you. As I tell my clients, keep it real with yourself at all times. Don't close your eyes to the truth of the thing that you're ingesting and you're taking part of. And like my ancestors basically told me when I was in Belize, stay woke. Stay woke.
I'm gonna keep it real.
5 journal prompts. I'm going to go ahead and give them to you. Number 1, where have I been shrinking myself to gain acceptance? And what would change if I chose authenticity instead? Number 2, what fear has been quietly influencing my decisions? And what do I know within me that tells me I'm capable of moving beyond it? Number 3, what beliefs about success, abundance, or my own worth am I ready to rewrite? Number 4, what am I constantly feeding my mind, spirit, and nervous system? And is it producing the life I actually desire? And number 5, our last journal prompt, where in my life am I being invited to trust the process instead of forcing an outcome? So those are our journal prompts. I want to hear from y'all though in the comments. What do y'all think about the connections between these investment companies and these privatized prisons and record labels? Also, do y'all feel like people that speak out against people that are successful because they're haters? Or do y'all feel like people should just shut up and be supportive or say nothing when it comes to our community? I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments. Please be sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen or watch me. And if you're interested in therapy services and you live in the state of Texas, you can find out more information on my website, evolutionsmentalhealthandwellness.com. There you can join my group exclusively for Black women in Texas, Self-Care Sunday. So I'll see y'all next time. This is Real Talk with the Spiritual Bestie. Bye.